You've been told since you graduated that the path to exceptional career growth is built entirely on the foundation of flawless execution, unyielding loyalty, and waiting your turn in the organizational line. You think that if you put in the extra hours, master every microtask on your desk, and act as the ultimate reliable anchor for your department, the hierarchy will naturally recognize your value and pull you upward into the ranks of high-status decision-makers. We are conditioned to treat the workplace as a perfect intellectual meritocracy where raw output is directly proportional to professional elevation. But as you look at your calendar packed with back-to-back operational syncs, realizing you've spent the last 3 years keeping the gears running while an aggressively underqualified colleague with half your technical competence effortlessly glides into a senior director role, you need to face an uncomfortable reality. Being exceptionally good at your daily execution doesn't make you look irreplaceable, it makes you look static. The corporate structure doesn't reward operational perfection with promotion, it rewards it with more operational work. By anchor weighting yourself to the identity of the flawless, silent executioner, you aren't proving you are ready to lead. You are simply proving that you're far too valuable, far too cheap, and far too safe exactly where you are to ever be moved. You think it works like this, you become indispensable at your current job, and that necessity forces them to promote you. But it doesn't. Here's what actually happens. Your total lack of friction and your absolute reliability make you an administrative fixture, ensuring you stay trapped in the middle tier while the real rewards are handed to those who prioritize visibility and leverage over compliance. Think about the quiet, heavy frustration that settles over you every single Friday afternoon. You've spent the entire week rescuing failing timelines, quietly fixing the formatting errors in your team's joint tracking sheets, and staying late to ensure the regional status reports are completely immaculate. You are exhausted, your cognitive capacity is completely depleted, and yet your name is buried on slide 14 of the deck under a generic bullet point titled Operational Support Team. Meanwhile, during the division-wide monthly review, your peer steps up to the microphone, casually presents a high-level conceptual framework that you actually helped clarify over a casual coffee talk, and receives a direct shout-out from the executive vice president for their strategic foresight. You sit there feeling a burning sensation of unfairness and confusion. You are doing the heavy lifting, yet they are receiving the heavy capital. You feel misunderstood because you are treating your output as your primary currency, assuming the system has an active, objective auditing process that keeps track of who is actually doing the real labor. It doesn't. The leadership team doesn't have the time or the emotional bandwidth to audit your character or your midnight contributions. They judge competence entirely based on the psychological weight you carry when you speak, and right now your behavior is broadcasting the signals of a permanent assistant. The hidden truth behind why you are stuck in the exhausting middle of the matrix is that human systems are fundamentally lazy when it comes to assigning status. This is the part nobody tells you. Your manager's primary incentive is not to advance your career. It is to protect their own peace of mind and operational stability. When you establish yourself as the person who can solve every fire without demanding extra budget, title adjustments, or political favor, you are solving your manager's single biggest problem. Why would they ever disrupt that perfect equilibrium by promoting you out of the department? This is the part where most people get stuck. They assume that if they show total compliance, the group will naturally feel an obligation of reciprocity. They won't. In the corporate theater, unprompted compliance creates an assumption of zero ambition. When you accept additional work without negotiating the immediate social pricing of that work, you aren't demonstrating leadership potential. You are simply demonstrating that your boundaries are incredibly cheap to buy. Here's what actually happens. The moment you prove you are willing to bear the emotional and operational costs of an entire division for a middle-tier salary, the system adjusts its internal pricing model for you, permanently categorizing you as high-volume, low-leverage infrastructure. They break your false assumption that performance equals promotion. In reality, performance without strategic theater is just free energy for the organization to consume. Deep office politics is the management of vocal and structural density. Decisions regarding who is chosen to lead high-stakes initiatives are made based on who looks like they can withstand the psychological gravity of leadership. If you spend your time over-explaining your minor administrative errors, constantly apologizing for missing an instant message by 5 minutes, or obsessively asking for validation on baseline decisions, you are actively training the collective subconscious of the leadership team to view you as fragile. The highest status professionals in any firm don't look average because they refuse to participate in the low-value transactional noise of the floor. They do not send 20-part email updates detailing every micro-action they took over the weekend. They communicate exclusively in high-level business outcomes and structural requirements. When a failure occurs within their perimeter, they don't dive into an emotional, panic-driven defensive cycle to prove their innocence. They simply state the adjustment framework. The variance has been identified, the resource allocation has been corrected, and the pipeline will hit its target by Tuesday morning. They are altering the psychological pressure of the environment. They understand that power is a game of baseline emotional stability, and the person who acts like an employee will always be treated like an employee, while the person who acts like an internal consultant will naturally be treated like an authority. And this is where the massive reality shift must reframe your daily professional execution. You have to completely kill the assumption that your job is to merely execute the tasks assigned to you. Your current strategy of unconditional technical execution is the precise mechanism that is keeping you entirely invisible to the executive suite. You must stop looking at your department as a safe execution track and start looking at it as an arena of perception management. Your current approach is failing because you have an oversupply of technical availability and a complete deficit of strategic scarcity. You are too easy to find, too easy to talk to, and far too easy to ignore. This is the turning point where you stop operating as a helper trying to survive the quarterly cycle and begin constructing the cold, calculated boundaries that force the organization to look at you through the lens of replaceable high-value leverage. You do not need to become an uncooperative obstructionist. You need to become an intentional corporate enigma. The first subtle solution to breaking out of the average tier is the immediate elimination of the over-responsibility trap. When a cross-functional team experiences a structural breakdown due to someone else's neglect, the natural instinct for the average employee is to rush forward, sacrifice their personal evening hours, and silently patch the hole to keep the project moving forward. You think you are proving your worth, but you are actually masking the system's true systemic vulnerabilities. You must change this script entirely. When an operational gap appears outside your explicit purview, you do not quietly fix it in the dark. You allow the friction to become visible to leadership, but you do so with clinical detached observation. You send a brief structural update to the stakeholder. The data input phase from the marketing pipeline is currently 24 hours behind schedule, which creates a direct risk to the executive presentation timeline. I have paused our internal modeling loop until their alignment is completed to protect our resource efficiency. Notice what you have done. You haven't screamed, you haven't blamed, and you haven't martyred your evening to fix their mistake. You have used communication to draw a sharp, clean line around your execution space, forcing the system to hold the responsible party accountable while elevating you to the status of objective supervisor who protects the organization's strategic pacing. Communication must be stripped of all permission-seeking vocabulary. This is the part nobody tells you. Your vocabulary is likely littered with verbal and written qualifiers that are quietly suffocating your professional authority. You start your ideas in project sessions by saying, "This might be a silly question," or "I know I'm just looking at this from an operational standpoint, but maybe we could." You think you are being humble and relatable, but you are actually telling the room that your ideas do not carry full weight. You must transition immediately to a tone of axiomatic certainty. You do not ask for validation at the end of your strategic thoughts by asking, "Does that make sense?" Instead, you lay out the framework and conclude with, "That is the optimization trajectory for this initiative. Let me know your implementation timeline by Friday afternoon." You are no longer inviting them to critique your right to speak. You are simply presenting the reality of the business architecture. You stop treating your insights as proposals up for debate and start treating them as decisions ready for execution. Visibility inside this new operational framework requires you to master the art of strategic upward redirection. The average employee spends all their social capital trying to look hyper-available to their immediate peers, becoming the designated technical cleanup crew for everyone else's low-value administrative headaches. You break this cycle by shifting your relationship energy away from the peer group and aligning your visibility strictly with the strategic priorities of the upper management. When a colleague attempts to drift over to your desk to offload an ad hoc, unassigned task that offers zero career visibility, you do not accept it out of a desire to be liked. You respond with a calm, process-driven barrier. "I'm currently directing my core execution bandwidth toward the executive team's Q3 revenue framework, so any auxiliary requests must clear a formal prioritization review with my director before I can allocate space." You are wrapping your boundary in the armor of high-level alignment. You are signaling that your attention is locked down by senior leadership, which instantly elevates the perceived status of your time. You are no longer an open corporate playground. You are a prioritized organizational asset. Relationships within the professional matrix must be managed through the psychological law of the non-reactive mirror. Average workers are emotionally volatile. They celebrate wildly when a project goes well, and they look physically crushed when a director delivers a harsh, unvarnished critique during a public review. This emotional transparency tells the leadership team that you are easily destabilized by organizational pressure. You counter this vulnerability by maintaining an absolute, unshakable baseline of professional neutrality. When an insecure manager attempts to bait you with a passive-aggressive comment regarding your project speed, you do not get defensive, you do not explain the logistical delays, and you do not look angry. You look at them with absolute calm silence for 3 long seconds, allowing the emotional tone of their comment to hang awkwardly in the air. Then, with a flat clinical vocal inflection, you pivot directly to the metrics. The current timeline is calculated to ensure 0 data variance during the final deployment phase. If you want to compress the timeline by 48 hours, we will need a written sign-off on the associated risk profile. You have completely inverted the power dynamic. You have transformed their emotional outburst into an objective administrative trade-off, forcing them to look reactive and small while you remain the coolest, most stable intellect in the room. Strategy over the long horizon requires you to change your competence exposure. The average employee makes the fatal mistake of revealing their entire technical skill set on day one, becoming the default person who fixes the printer, codes the macro sheet, and edits the presentation slides all at once. They become a general utility player, and utility players are never paid elite salaries. You must practice the art of intentional specialization scarcity. You keep your secondary skills hidden in total silence. You do not volunteer to solve every random problem that arises in the office. You select one and only one high-value, highly visible strategic bottleneck within the company, and you master it completely. You make yourself the exclusive gatekeeper to that specific solution. When people realize that you are the only person who can navigate that particular complexity, they will treat your presence with an entirely different level of gravity. They will stop treating you like an all-purpose tool and start treating you like a specialized surgeon. You teach the system to respect your value by proving that your focus cannot be bought with basic operational pleasantries. Here's what actually happens when you systematically eliminate these 7 mistakes over a 90-day window. The entire cultural landscape around your career begins to completely realign itself. The corporate opportunists who used to look at your desk as a dumping ground for their unassigned administrative labor will suddenly begin to keep their distance. They won't understand the exact psychological mechanics of what changed, but they will intuitively sense the sudden heavy density of your boundaries. They will realize that trying to manipulate your time requires far too much cognitive effort and carries a very real risk of structural exposure for them. At the same time, the true decision makers in the firm, the senior stakeholders who operate exclusively on the wavelengths of leverage, stability, and power, will begin to notice your presence in the room. They will see an individual who cannot be panicked, who speaks with absolute clinical precision, and who manages their operational domain with the authority of an independent sovereign. They will recognize that you possess the exact psychological architecture required to occupy high-level leadership positions. The ultimate reality shift happens the moment you completely detach your internal self-worth from the approval of the corporate hierarchy. You must accept the cold truth that the organization is a business transaction, not an educational institution designed to validate your intelligence. It does not possess a soul, and it cannot hand you a gold star for good behavior. When you stop looking for validation from your manager, you strip them of their ultimate psychological leverage over your career. You treat the office as an ironclad business agreement where you deliver high-tier strategic capability and they deliver capital, authority, and data. This emotional detachment is your ultimate shield. It allows you to sit in a room filled with chaotic office politics, shifting executive alliances and high-stress market contractions, and observe the entire scene with the calm, analytical eye of a grandmaster surveying a chessboard. You are no longer a piece being moved by the anxieties of others. You are the player who understands the unwritten rules of the game. Reinforce this truth to yourself every single time you open your laptop or walk into an executive briefing. Average performance is a trap created by your own desire for safety. Respect is never given to those who patiently wait for it. It is systematically extracted by those who refuse to negotiate their boundaries. Create a deep, unshakable awareness of your own professional value. You are an independent enterprise, an elite strategist whose time and focus are absolute, premium commodities. Look past the artificial titles, the temporary corporate slogans, and the manufactured urgency of the daily calendar, and focus entirely on the execution of your strategic scarcity. When you stop apologizing for your space, stop yielding your authority to the loudest voices in the room, and start enforcing the strict social pricing of your intellect, the entire hierarchy will naturally shift to accommodate your rise. End with this definitive realization. The person who wins the long-term career game is never the most submissive performer in the operational trenches, nor is it the loudest voice shouting for attention at the water cooler. It is the silent strategist who possesses the psychological discipline to remain scarce, the communication skills to stay neutral, and the unshakable self-worth to look a system of power directly in the eye and make it adjust to them. Reflect on the immense, quiet power of the professional who has stopped seeking to be helpful and has started choosing to be exceptional. Because in the architecture of corporate leverage, the individual who commands their own boundaries is the only one who ever truly commands the matrix.